10 coats of paint stained in tobacco.
What is happening? It is the Adult in the Room podcast with Victoria Taft. I am your adult in the room. I am a grown woman multiple times over. I have to tell you what's coming up on the live cast today. We write at dawn. It is the Operation Economic Outcast on Iran. Holy crow. Finally just broke down what Scott Bessent said, announced yesterday. We're going to talk about it today. We're going to talk about it with Edmund, Fitton, Brown, and we'll also talk about it with, we'll have lots of other things to talk about. But 25 years after 9/11, 25 years after, and there are so many more questions. And did you know that there was another operation planned following that operation? We're going to talk to the author of a new book about it. He talked to the guys at Gitmo because he was one of the prosecutors, and he got a lot of information from these guys, and we'll find out what he knows and what's contained in his new book, and it's called Second Wave. Second Wave, inside Al-Qaeda's post 9/11 attack plan and America's secret effort to stop it. So apparently they stopped it, but I'd very much like to know what that plan was. We write at dawn. It is Operation the Economic D-Day that Scott Bessent and Donald Trump had promised, and I will tell you about that coming up in just a moment. And of course, Edmund's going to talk about it coming up a little bit later in the program, and I got to tell you something. Oh, hell yeah, it's an Operation D-Day. Let me tell you. Wow. Yes. Goodbye, Dolly Parton. What a lovely individual you were, and how wonderful she was to so many people. And the reason I say this, I'll explain coming up in just a moment. But this is one of the songs. I wasn't a big Dolly Parton fan. I think she had a gorgeous voice. And she had amazing songwriting capabilities. But it was later also that she began writing books and touting publications of children's books that my kids got involved in appreciating Dolly Parton. And that's why so many kids are going to Dollywood these days. Dolly Parton had been hospitalized for several days in the days leading to her death. And this is the song I most remember her because I was somebody who used to watch talk shows when I was a kid. Here she is singing the acoustic version of A Coat of Many Colors. We'll take a little bit of it.
It's also a true story from my childhood. Back through the years I go wandering once again, back to the seasons of my youth, and I recall a box of eggs that someone gave us, and how my mama put the eggs to use. There were eggs of many colors, but every piece was small, and I didn't have a coat, and it was way down in the fall. Mama sewed the eggs together, sewing every piece with love. She made my coat of many colors that I was so proud of. And while she sewed, she told a story from the Bible she had read about a coat of many colors Joseph wore, and then she said, I hope this coat will bring you good luck and happiness. And I just couldn't wait to wear it, and Mama blessed it with a kiss. My coat of many colors that my mama made for me, made only from rags, but I wore it so proudly. Although we had no money, I was rich as I could be in my coat of many colors Mama made for me.
Wow.
So with patches on my breeches, holes in both my shoes, in my coat of many colors, I hurried off to school, just to find the others laughing and making fun of me and my coat of many colors that Mama made for me. No, I couldn't understand that, 'cause I thought I was rich. And then I told him of the love my mama sewed in every stitch. And then I told him all the story that Mama told me while she sewed, and why my coat of many colors was worth more than all their clothes. They didn't understand it, and I tried to make them see. One is only poor, only if you choose to be. It is true we had no money, but I was rich as I could be in my coat of many colors Mama made for me, made just for me.
Wow, wow, wow. That was a beautiful song, huh? Beautiful. Yeah, that makes me sad because, well, not, it makes me sad because Dolly Parton's, gone, but it makes me sad because it kind of reminds me of, my upbringing, so sad. Sorry. They used to make rugs. My grandmother and my grandmother had money, and she, my great grandmother's family had money, and they worked incredibly hard, but they worked at a mining camp, and they mined precious metals. So they were pretty well set. My grandmother got some of that, but they came from a farm. I mean, these very frugal people, and they taught my mom how to make a rug. And so I still have it. It's just sitting out not too far from here, actually, and I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to put it. A rag rug. It's huge. And because that's what they did. And we had my coat of many colors. Man, oh, man. Oh, yeah, that happened. My mom would make our stuff. She would make our coats and stuff like that when we were little, until we got a job, and then we could afford our own. Anyway, I didn't think that would affect me like that, but God bless Dolly Parton. She left a legacy, and it has I think it's transformed many different generations, and it's been a wonderful blessing to a lot of people. So that's pretty cool. Lots to talk about today. I'm going to show you our docket today, and Economic D-Day. And I have to tell you about this. It really is an economic D-Day for the likes of Iran. And here's what I mean. Listen to Scott Bessent discussing what the United States isn't theoretically doing. He isn't talking about shaking a fist, if you don't do what we say. He is saying, this is what we're doing, and we've already started. And listen to the words.
To the ordinary soldiers supporting this regime, as more and more of your paychecks stop or are supposedly just delayed, ask whether your commanders are leading your country to triumph or to ruin. And recall that the Berlin Wall fell when ordinary soldiers decided not to shoot at their own people. And to those who enable Tehran, do not discount the cost of testing Washington's resolve. No nation should expect to enjoy the rewards of our system while helping those who seek to destroy it. It is now a time for world leaders to make a decision between prosperity and isolation, peace and terror, America and Iran. The campaign we begin today will gather force with every day that follows, and it will not end until this regime stands alone.
Yeah, so that's what's happening. And they're going, oh, yeah, well, you know those Jenga blocks that we've been undoing? You know, the whole tower you guys had going? And we've been pulling out the blocks? And here we go. We're going to pull out the blocks of your ability to create weapons to a large extent. And we're going to get the forgers, and we're going to get those people out of the way, and the people who can fabricate things. And we're going to take away the money that you've got coming in for your gas. And we're going to take those away. And now we're going to come and we're going to close all your banks. We're going to close your banks. I fear for the people of Iran. And I hope that I hope they cry uncle at the regime and they say, okay, we're tapping out. We are tapping out. But they don't like their own people. They've been shooting their own people. That's why Scott Bessent brought up the prospect of the Berlin Wall and why it was that it fell after soldiers refused to shoot their own fellow citizens. So, yeah. So that's a big thing. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to get down low with our friend from the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, Edmund Fitton Brown, coming up in just a little bit. And we're going to look at the 25th anniversary of the attack on the World Trade Center towers, the Pentagon, Shanksville, and what they were doing there, and what our guest coming up at the bottom of the hour found out about what the next plot was supposed to be. Found out that there is a doggone giant that was invited. Was he invited? At the WNBA game this week. Enes Kanter Freedom, 11-year veteran of the NBA, showed up because he's going to run or try out for the WNBA. And here's the picture that tells the story that belies the frauds, that continues to pass the lie that men can be women. See this? That's Enes Kanter Freedom. These women are standing up. They are mere feet from him. This is what tells the story. And he had a T-shirt on, and his T-shirt said women on it, and it had a definition of a woman just in case Ketanji Brown Jackson catches a look at his shirt in the coverage, because she obviously didn't know what a woman was. Obviously, she was and still is, the dumbest member of the U.S. Supreme Court. Maybe she'll grow up eventually, and maybe she'll stop being stupid, but nevertheless, she does see the world through a different lens than we do, through quote-unquote social justice programs and DEI. So here's hoping you grow up. There we go. Here's the way the rhubarb looked the other day. And the rhubarb is what happened after he had some problems with one of the players who's apparently a star, and I don't give a flying flipping frittata about what a big star she is. I just want you to see the fact that, in fact, I'm going to make sure I've got this going. Yeah, here we go. Here's the rhubarb that occurred. and how he got kicked out. Ennis Cannon of Freedom got kicked out of the ball game in Chicago. This is Terry R. East's highlights. Look at this woman. You got to get out of here, sir. Oh, it's muted? Oh, stand by. Stand by. You can't actually, you could just hear you can't hear the words. No, you can't. No, you can't hear that. Oh, is it? No, it's not. Is it an NBA copyright? Okay, yeah, well, there you go. Anyway, he gets kicked out and he's asking him, hey, everybody, clap for everything. Woo! So he gets kicked out. Proving the point, of course. And here's the point. See me? I'm going to try out to be on your team for the WNBA. I identify as a woman. And the team, he gets into, there's a woman right here. It's just a bad filter on this thing. And a woman's right here, and she's trying to pick a fight with him. Listen, honey, could you tell how big this dude is? So he's there. She doesn't like his shirt. She's offended by his shirt, which says woman on it. He's a woman. He's identifying as a woman because they have no rules. You already know this stuff. I mean, the WNBA doesn't know what the W stands for. You've heard that cliche. It's a cliche now. So that is what's going on. And so my contention is that a giant went to a WNBA game the other day, and he was vanquished by the crowd, by the mob, who did not want to hear what a woman is, because to hear what a woman is, it means that people pretending to be women can't be allowed to play their reindeer games. So there is that. I know. You know, the other day when we were looking at the video that from the F-18 pilot, yes, he found out that this guy is when we talked about it and we found out he was doing a lot of talking and that sort of thing. And well, there's new video, and the video has no sound. For this, which is apparently a theme today. No sound on the vid. Whatever. But this is pretty interesting. We still see the image. Let me see. Did I undo that one? I just want to make sure. Remove from studio. Oh, yeah, for whatever reason. I don't know why. Here we go. And we're going to go over here, and we're going to make sure you can see this video. She said, hopefully. Don't worry. This is the rest of the video. Remember now, we left the video from last week, which was over an hour long. And I didn't play it all for you. I just played snippets because I'd already previewed it. And so previewed, there's a word for it. And and I just played you the highlights. I did pretty much the same this time because there's not much going on because you can't hear anything. And you'll find out why you can't hear anything coming up in just a minute. And but first, you can see some of the debris. We're looking at the debris field here. And this is when the sheriff's deputy goes to with the pilot, and they're looking for the debris, and they're looking for the parachute. They're looking to get all that stuff to scuttle and or remove it so that no one else can see it and find it. And eventually you'll see that. By the way, this guy's climbing up this hill. He's just climbed down this hill. He's just had to punch out of his F-18. He's lost a $67 million plane. He's a Marine Corps pilot. This is going to be the worst day of his life, potentially. I mean, he's really in the running, okay? This is an example of having a bad day. And as I say, they're not talking in this whole thing. And one of the reasons is that, of course, he might talk about some of the material. He might talk about what what the plane has on it, what the jet has on it, what happened that he's aware of, which would have to be lateraled over to the Marines that are going to be doing their Department of the Navy, going to be investigating this, and all of that. And so that is why no sound this time, because last week when we were talking about it, I was like, should this guy be telling people this? Well, it turns out, why no, he shouldn't be. Here's a he might be a current Top Gun flight instructor who's saying a few things that you'll need to hear, and not having the sound on for this bad boy is probably one of them. Listen.
That was the most violent thing that ever happened to that Marine in his entire life up until that moment. You know, in ejection, when you pull that handle, you have two choices: die or maybe live. And I said maybe live, right? Because it's incredibly violent. I think the average ejection seat is like 10 to 20 G's of force. It's the blink of an eye. When you pull that handle, in the blink of an eye, you're in your parachute. So just think about how violent that is. You know, when you pull the handle, the canopy fires, and then your seat fires, and then you're in your parachute. So man, that is, I guarantee you, a lot of that is shock. And obviously he had some sort of head injury, maybe, you know, hitting some trees or something like that, so he was bleeding. So definite shock, but also, you know, a little bit of an adrenaline letdown, like, okay, I'm alive. So he wouldn't be freaking out like, oh my God, you know, that already passed. The freak out already happened. Now's the time for absolute calm and peace. Most folks don't even remember the ejection. They remember pulling the handle and then waking up in their parachute type of thing.
So I mean, he had other things. He goes, before I just had to edit it. So he was like, I can't believe that he was talking that much, and talking about going down in his plane to that extent. And so good luck to that pilot. He seems like a nice kid. Bless his heart. So that was the additional addendum to that story. So Giant shows up at the WNBA, and here's the postscript on this incident that we talked about the other day, and how that might be problematic for our new kid. Let's look a little bit more of the video, if you don't mind. And they've just found I have not stopped rolling on this video. This is over an hour-long video, again, from the Apple Valley ABC News affiliate in Yakima, Washington. And so I don't know what we can see. Apparently they've sanitized this to the extent that we can see it now. They didn't do that last week. This happened in June. And so they took a while to release the vid. I noticed that there was another site on YouTube, and it was a couple of guys talking about stuff like this. And I was like, how did they get the video 2 months ago? I mean, it happened 2 months ago, but how did they get the video so quickly? So mazel to them, more power to them. But here's the little people here. I thought it was fascinating. How in heaven's name, what do you do? Okay, that you could, this could happen and you just walk out. Remember, he was walking out, he had blood all over his face, which he thought was probably from this deployment of his parachute. So anyway, no fun for that kid. I say kid because, as I mentioned before, everybody's a kid to me now. So, you get to the point where you're old enough and everybody's a kid to you. And that's okay, because kids keep me young. So anyway, 25 years ago, in September 11th, we were attacked by what we believe were jihadists. And, of course, and they were in the United States, and they were prepping for this attack. There was an aerial attack using planes. And they hijacked the planes, and they directed the planes as if they were missiles into 3 different places on 9/11. And so I'm just trying to find out where that sound happens. Sorry, guys, I've got some crosstalk. I hope you're not hearing it. Probably not. When I take it off, nobody hears it. But nevertheless, So one plane went into the Pentagon, one plane went into the World Trade Center towers, one plane went into the ground at Shanksville, Pennsylvania, because of the heroic and selfless acts by the people on the plane. Let's roll. And so what was the fallout? I mean, do you realize that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed is still at Gitmo and he has not been officially tried for being the architect of 9/11 and this hijacking plot? And so when I got a look at this book and I saw this guy on LinkedIn, and I'm never on LinkedIn, I go, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Michael Lebowitz had mentioned the fact that KSM isn't even, I mean, there's no chance that guy's going to ever be tried. He didn't say that, I'm saying that. But he says that in a new book that they had a deadlier sequel to 9/11. And he writes about it in this new book called Second Wave. Let's see what some of the blurbs say about it. Some books inform you, this one will shake you. Michael Lebowitz spent years as a prosecutor inside the War on Terror, in the courtroom, at Gitmo, in the classified files no one was supposed to see. And what he found was a post-9/11 nuclear plot so dangerous that the U.S. government fought for years to keep it secret. Second Wave is one of the most important untold stories of our generation, meticulously researched, impossible to put down. I just got my copy today, thrilled, and overdue by 20 years. If you only read one book about the War on Terror, make it this one. And Michael Lebowitz said, hey, okay, sure, I'll come on your show, Victoria. And Michael Lebowitz, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you writing this book, the years that you've spent trying to do the right thing. And what story are you telling in this doggone book?
Well, thank you for having me, Victoria.
Thank you for coming on.
So the book is written like a thriller, like a cinematic thing. So some people actually ask me, is this really nonfiction? And every bit of it is true based on interviews. I'm part of the book, and just being a part of everything. And so here's what happened was Osama bin Laden, the leader of Al-Qaeda, he always had this dream of creating an American Hiroshima. He wanted minimum 10,000 casualties, and he had this goal of obtaining nuclear weapons. And what happened in 1998 was Pakistan became a nuclear power, and Pakistan was kind of known for a little bit of weapons proliferation and terrorist sympathies through their intelligence service.
Oh, yeah.
So in 2000, there's this businessman. He was a green card holder. He had this idyllic life, like a multi-millionaire rich guy who was an import-exporter in New York. And he goes to Afghanistan and meets Osama bin Laden, hands him his business card. So several months prior to 9/11, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed shows up at this businessman's Pakistan office, and they start working together. And the whole point is that the businessman turned out he was connected to everybody. He was the most gregarious, likable guy there was, the most westernized. He had an Orthodox Jewish business partner. He was so westernized, but he also got in over his head in a real estate deal. And he was kind of needed like $200,000 to kind of keep his real estate deal afloat. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed shows up, he's like, hey, well, we can invest, but we don't really understand maritime trade. Al-Qaeda doesn't have a shipping company. You do. And what this guy, Saifullah Paracha, the rich guy, does, he actually had connections to the father of Pakistan's nuclear program. He had, he was...
A.Q. Khan?
Yes, exactly, yep. He had a pocket organizer. Paracha had it. A.Q. Khan was in the organizer, his personal phone number, as well as senior Pakistani intelligence officials who were sympathetic to terrorists. And so nobody knew about Paracha until Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and a guy named Majid Khan, who was meant to be a sleeper agent, started getting captured. And soon, this name Paracha keeps showing up. And then they start checking their databases, and in safe houses of top Al-Qaeda officials from raids back as far back as 2002, the CIA started finding business cards of Paracha and information on how to set up shell companies. And
Huh.
then once KSM or Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was being waterboarded and things like that, he said, I know a guy who has told us he can help us obtain nuclear weapons through the ports. And the hysteria amongst the intelligence community was fever pitch. This was the ultimate ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
And so what the book describes was this is right after 9/11, and the government was trying to really change its strategy on the fly. It went from a law enforcement strategy or toolkit to military. And a lot of things weren't going right. And the book really describes, how a lot of that was getting in the way of the investigation.
Yep.
The CIA wanted to torture Paracha if they ever caught him, even though recognizing he was an American, and which was a huge legal issue. And the FBI, the book takes you in the room of the interrogations that the FBI and the CIA did. Um, and
Wow.
There's just a lot of like really good insight that no one's ever heard before. A lot of interesting stories. Some of it's it would be funny if it wasn't so serious,
Right.
but it's definitely real. But I think one of the most interesting from an espionage standpoint or a true crime is that as the CIA was trying to capture him, they couldn't get him because he was so rich and powerful. Pakistan wouldn't give him up. And the FBI came up with the most ingenious ruse where they had to work in concert with the CIA. They had to work in concert with the FBI or with the military. The White House and the Department of Defense had to preemptively declare this guy an enemy combatant, even though he was an American. And it
Yeah.
became this really globe hopping adventure. But one thing I think is important for the book is that it doesn't stop at just this really unique true crime story. It takes you to Guantanamo Bay, where I was a prosecutor. It takes you through the inner workings of things, of the terrorism. And then what it does is it takes you to now, to 2026.
Mm.
And it analyzes how after 9/11, there were a lot of recommendations to prevent this from happening, prevent information falling through the cracks. And the book talks about starting around 2016 at the end of the Obama administration, things start to backslide. And it continued to go until we get to 2026. And the big concern is that we're at a pre 9/11 posture of vulnerability and something could fall through the cracks again.
So in what way did we fall through the crack or correction? Did we have that course correction in the Obama administration? What did he do? Was that the JCPOS with Iran, or I say that in jest, but making friends with the mullahs? I mean, we know that Al Qaeda and Iran were, helping each other to some extent, right? So, what was it that he did?
So what Obama did was it was kind of like the tail end of ISIS's reign, right? And so what Obama did was he started to cut funding to certain grants for counterterrorism. He started to kind of being like, you know what, maybe we don't need to fund this. He started
Oh, the
redirecting
JV
resources.
remark. The ISIS is the JV. Is that what this was?
It wasn't exactly that. I mean, I think at the time, I think Americans were getting complacent because 9/11, was like at that time, it was, a long time ago to certain people and a major attack hadn't happened. So, and the book kind of walks you through the complacency. So Obama really started cutting funding and there was a lot of fights in Congress about that. And then, but it carried over to the first Trump administration and then definitely the Biden administration. And then back to the second Trump administration, where again more funding was cut. Law enforcement tools were kind of redirected, whether it's to immigration, and this is Biden administration and the Trump administration. So a lot of just like little things around the edges. And then what happened in 2025 was that, and again, I say this to everybody. The book does not take any political tack because I believe that national security should be completely apolitical. The
Mm-hmm.
president is well within his rights to set his agenda, and immigration enforcement is what people voted for, and the president, implemented that, and that is totally fine. But the issue is that there was after 9/11, the recommendations were we need to maintain and train and really keep our analysts and agents focused on counterterrorism. But what happened was with immigration enforcement was that they started being dual-hatted. And the FBI and the analysts started, a lot of them left, whether it's through buyouts
Oh,
or
sure.
whatever reasons. And a lot of them were dual-hatted. They were so focused on immigration enforcement while trying to do the counterterrorism part. And the real fear, and the book talks about it with real examples, is that vital information can fall through the cracks. And if you mind, I can give you a really good example from 9/11.
Please do.
So several weeks prior to 9/11, in August of 2001, there was a guy named Mohammed al-Qahtani, and he showed up at the Orlando airport. And he was kind of a jerk, like really rude to the female customs agent, like a horrible terrorist. I mean, but so he was just so the customs agent was like, okay, we're going to go talk to you a little more because he had a one-way ticket to the United States and he had $3,000 in cash.
Mm-hmm.
So he talks to this retired master sergeant who is a law enforcement investigator, and essentially the investigator determines that Qahtani was a migrant based on all those facts. And that was it. They said, you can either talk to us some more or you can go home. So he went home. But if they would have looked at it solely in the counterterrorism prism, the law enforcement had in their hands a travel itinerary that had one of the top Al-Qaeda 9/11 facilitators that was literally paying, feeding, and housing the hijackers that were in the United States. They had his phone number. They had a prepaid calling card with Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's phone number. Mohammed Atta, the lead hijacker, was at the airport waiting for Qahtani. He even got a parking ticket. If they would have looked into that more as counterterrorism, I believe that 9/11 could have been foiled based on that information because it was so good, but it fell through the cracks. So this is
Wow.
the kind of thing. Yeah. So today where we have people that are doing the same work, counterterrorism work, but also dealing with things like immigration and kind of not doing one or the other, but doing both. The real concern is that something might fall through the cracks again. And that's the example that I like to give.
Well, it sounds like when did that happen again? 19.
No, August of 2001, about a few weeks prior to the attack. And here's the thing, Qahtani was destined to be the 20th hijacker. That's why Flight 93 only had 4 hijackers instead of 5. It was because Qahtani got sent home.
Yeah, so that's the story of the 20th hijacker. Holy crap.
Yes.
That is amazing. We have a picture of him. Oh, yeah, this guy. Oh, no, that's Moussaoui. Qahtani, here we go. I'm going to show you this picture, everybody, because I want people to see this dirtbag. Whatever happened to him? Is he still alive somewhere? Or what?
Oh, so this is also what the book talks about as I kind of transition from the second wave plot and the thriller and true crime that it was, as I transition over the years to highlight the complacency that the American public kind of went, like understandably so, and the government kind of followed along. In 2022, the Biden administration, to no fanfare, decided to let Qahtani go. They sent him back to Saudi Arabia, theoretically for mental health treatments. The military trials at Gitmo failed to put him on trial, and he was let go, along with Paracha, who was the main linchpin of Al-Qaeda's nuclear program, because they so much wanted to clear Guantanamo Bay that they were willing to let the 20th hijacker go. And I will say that the Trump administration, prior to that one, actually fought, the military on letting him go. But the Biden administration said, you know what, we're done with, we want to clear out of Gitmo as much as we can. Qahtani and Paracha were sent back.
I do remember this. It's coming back to me. I can't. That is just. And then they sent him back to Saudi Arabia. To what extent is Saudi Arabia officials involved in 9/11? Are we satisfied that it was pretty much a Saudi plot? What do you know?
So I was on the 9/11 case at Guantanamo Bay for many years. I was in the courtroom. I argued motions in front of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. So I've definitely been there. I've looked at every shred of evidence in this case, both classified and unclassified, all the transcripts. I've interviewed many victim family members. Anything you can think of for the 9/11 case, I have been involved in it personally. And I can tell you that I have never seen anything that linked directly to Saudi Arabia. I know that there's some kind of FBI reports and some things where there's references and some kind of items, but as far as building a case against Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and his compatriots, there was nothing in there that I saw that linked directly to Saudi Arabia. It was there was a lot to it. There was a lot of things that fell through the cracks. There was a lot of information. It was definitely a very nuanced plot. There were definitely many Saudi Arabian citizens that were involved in it. I'm sure there was Saudi money involved. There's a lot of lawsuits against Saudi Arabia from family members. So I wouldn't discount it. But as far as building a case against Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, that's not something that would be part of the case. And honestly, I don't think that's something that the defense is going to be able to bring up, because I don't think they have anything to say. It wasn't really our guy. It was the Saudi government, because they would.
I see. So he's still there. He's at Gitmo. He's hanging out, doing his thing, playing soccer.
Oh, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, yes. He was brought to Guantanamo Bay along with other men that were, in a joint trial or in a joint case in 2006. They were in the CIA black sites, depending on when they were captured, between 2002 and 2006, when they were all brought to Guantanamo Bay. There was an initial attempt to prosecute them in 2008 and 2009. It failed very quickly. When the Obama administration took over, I was at the arraignment in 2011. It was the longest arraignment in American history. It was 13 hours.
Wow.
There's many factors. Mostly, I think it's just, once the military case, or the construct of military commissions at Guantanamo got, dealt with by the courts and dealt with by Congress, it became so unwieldy. The 9/11 case itself has over 10 judges. And in a death penalty case, that is not going to survive appeal. It was definitely frustrating for the prosecutors, such as myself, that we all were doing the right thing. We were working, all ethically. Our sole purpose was to do right by the Fitton family members and pursue the case. But I call it the Guantanamo case is like a zombie court now, where there's so many efforts to kill it, but it just slowly lumbers along. It won't die.
So he sits there. He's not. He has not been convicted, right? So
he is still in the pretrial litigation. It has been like that since the arraignment in 2011.
Okay, all right. Because there's really not much you can do with him. You can't let. I'm sure Obama wanted to let him go.
So Obama wanted to bring him in 2009 and 2010 to New York for trial.
Yeah.
But Congress got in the way of that one, and politics really messed that one up. There was a bunch of things that happened. The underwear bomber.
Yes.
If you remember, flying to Detroit, that really scared a lot of people that were kind of inclined to maybe bring KSM to the United States. And then there was a guy named Galani. He was the only Guantanamo detainee to be brought to New York. He was part of the 1998 embassy bombings. And what happens was he was the test case. And Galani got acquitted in federal court of like 200 and some counts. And he was only convicted of one count of conspiracy or to destroy property. But he was sentenced to life, but because he was acquitted of all the other stuff, that just really scared the Obama administration and Congress out. They're like, we're just going to stick with Gitmo.
Huh.
There's a lot that went on,
because Eric Holder's law firm and all the other law firms that were brought to bear to bring defense cases on behalf of the terrorists, there were some pretty big white shoe firms out there doing it, and among them, as I say, the Attorney General's law firm. And so I figured that they would just, be a slam dunk, and it would be, they wouldn't get a fair trial because they would be trying so hard. Everybody in concert would be trying so hard to get these guys off and to, I just didn't know. I did not think that the Obama administration would do anything to keep them, in prison. I felt like they were going to be let go. That's my point.
And interesting you say that.
But
so one thing in the book, towards the end, I interview, one of the top national security prosecutors who would have prosecuted KSM in New York if he would have gotten the case. And I begin that chapter talking about his greatest fear. And his greatest fear, and this was an interview from 2025, his greatest fear is that these 9/11 conspirators will be let go and will be released back without the justice that they deserve. And he says that's what keeps him up at night. So your concern is shared by top prosecutors of the country.
Especially when AQ Khan's gone, but of course the technology exists. I guess that he died of COVID, if I'm not mistaken. And so may he rest in Hades. So we have he gives that to the Pakistanis. Pakistan, according to a new UN report, that an assessment of Al Qaeda, Taliban, and all the bad guys, the Pakistani state is teetering. Okay, not doing bueno, not doing well. In fact, I'll look it up on that report because they're, as I've already said, a nuclear power. So what happens if the folks, for example, the AQ guys that are on house arrest in Iran right now in Tehran, house guests of the mullahs are now, because the United States is bringing pressure, just freed to do their bad deeds in Pakistan or wherever, get some nukes, and all of a sudden Iran has nukes again. I mean, you know that? You see what I'm going with that?
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, weapons of mass destruction, proliferation is a huge concern. It always has been a huge concern. And my book talks about how President Clinton really tried to warn President Bush, when they did the transition, about the Pakistan issue and how to handle it. And they kind of had their signals crossed, and Bush didn't hear the Al Qaeda part of it. Bush and Clinton says, no, I definitely talked about Al Qaeda. So there's a lot of goofiness to that. But I mean, you look at it now, particularly with Iran, on the day of the late Supreme Leader, the old Ayatollah's funeral a few months ago, whatever it was, the new Supreme Leader, the son, he actually issued a worldwide call to retaliate. So, I mean, that went really under the radar with the media, but that signaled to me that he was giving a green light to the Iranian proxies and their supporters to start implementing worldwide action, and whether that means targeting Jewish sites, targeting American in general sites, military sites, or whatever it is around the world. So when you get this weapons proliferation, you bring that component in, it's a really big issue, and that's what the book really focuses on, as well as the ports and the borders. And how secure are they? I mean, the land borders pretty well, but the maritime ports, sensors that would detect these things. I mean, Al Qaeda wanted the second wave plot. They wanted to get an expert that could navigate the sensors and hide, these weapons of mass destruction, the radiological materials, through regular textiles. And that's an issue as much as it was in 2003 when the second wave occurred to today. And that's why I think the second wave book is so relevant, because it doesn't just talk about history, it talks about today and in context.
Okay, now, of course, this is getting to be like the moon landing, and it always has been, actually, the whole 9/11 caper. And so Catherine Herridge is formerly from CBS News, and I think she was at Fox as well. She is now re-reporting some of the stuff that she's reported in the past, including the precursor guys, the advance team, if you will, for the Al Qaeda, the 9/11 hijackers, and how they came to San Diego, and of course hung out with Awlaki and Anwar Awlaki and others, and so the concern is that she's posted all this stuff, and I'm seeing the responses to her, okay, because it's always, the comments are always really interesting. Here are just a few of them that I read. Only one little detail, Catherine: planes can't knock down buildings at all, never mind in less than 4 hours before lunchtime was over. Of course, building number 7, the quote-unquote implosion, I really don't, I don't profess to know anything about this. If you watch the videos, Catherine, and listen to the engineers, architects, and witnesses, I don't know how you could believe anything else. Building brought down by shape charges. The U.S. government did it. You're playing catch-up on 9/11, Catherine. Stop looking at the Saudi angle, and on and on and on it goes. What do you think happened?
So when I was working on the 9/11 case, we were building evidence to specifically give the scientific rationale for why, I don't want to get into Building 7, but the 2 World Trade Center towers collapsed. And we actually had scientists, independent ones, that they did a whole graphics, and these will eventually be used in the trial if it happens. And what happened was that the first, when the plane, full of jet fuel, hit the towers, right? What happens was one of them hit kind of the corner, right? One hit straight on. The first one hit straight on. The second one hit at the corner. And what happens was it wasn't the plane that knocked the tower down. There was intense heat from the fire from the fuel, because the World Trade Centers were built in a square, and they were open floor plan. So there were 4 corner offices in the corner and an elevator shaft in the middle. And what you had flame retardants, kind of and that were kind of covering the metal. So do you remember in the video when the tower started to collapse and the kind of the antenna on top went up before the building goes down?
No, but I'll take your word for it.
Okay, if you watch the video, the ceiling at the top of the building actually goes up. You'll see the antenna go up, and then it starts to go down. The reason why it does that is because the flame retardant stuff was so hot, it made the steel bow. And what happens was the steel finally bowed, and that's why the building goes up first. And then the steel collapsed because it couldn't handle the weight after it started coming down. And that's how the towers started to collapse. And the same thing with the jumpers is because the heat was so intense, like it went to like 800 degrees, that they really had no choice. They had no thinking, because they were just going toward the light, right? And that's kind of what was going on in the buildings when they collapsed and when the fires were going on. That's the science of it from a prosecutor's angle.
So you believe that it was and the conspiracy was to do what? What buildings were the targets?
So the World Trade Center was the targets, and then Al Qaeda had this guy named Hani Hanjour, who was supposedly their best trained. He was trained pilot. He wasn't trained in the United States to be the one who was going to target the Pentagon. And then Flight 93, was meant for the Capitol, because the White House was probably too much of a difficult target to hit.
Okay. So it was the Capitol, because even to this day, we have, I look it up, or it's an anniversary, or I'm researching a story or something, and it's always like, well, we think it was for the Capitol, or it could have been for the White House. We really, we don't know. And it's like, how do we not know that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, so we get it from, various ways of, whether it's the intelligence that we got or the interviews with the detainees. Some of it was, the CIA ones got through the enhanced interrogation techniques, or the torture program, as some call it. So sometimes there's questions of reliability. But then once the 9/11 guys were brought to Guantanamo, they were given what's called a clean team, or the FBI was interviewing them, and they gave voluntary statements. And they kind of said a lot of this stuff. And Osama bin Laden, actually, he tried. He wanted to do like May of 2001, because it was like an even number after the USS Cole attack from the year before. And Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was the one that kind of had to rein in bin Laden to say, no, we're not ready yet. So he was more of the strategic tactical one, where, bin Laden was more about like symbolism of the date and things like that, where KSM was like, no, we just want to make sure we get it done right. Because the whole conspiracy, because KSM was the most vicious of all the Al-Qaeda leaders, and he was the one, this was his plan. He's been concocting a planes operation, as he called it, since the 1990s.
Right. He did Bojinka, right?
Yes, exactly.
So how come that failed? Did he? I imagine you talked to him. What was he like?
So I never talked directly to KSM, but I've been in the courtroom, and when he's spoken, and things like that. I've read all the evidence, everything he's ever said. And you asking me what it was like to be in the courtroom and talk when KSM is staring at me?
That's weird.
So
That'd be creepy.
So he's an interesting guy. I'll say this: he justifies what he did. Like he has some semblance of a conscience that he'll say, even though it's warped and evil. Because there's one guy of the 9/11 conspiracy named Khalid Benatosh, and an attorney once told me that he is the true psychopath of the 9/11 guys. He's the guy that figured out that if you can sneak an X-Acto blade, a razor knife on an airplane, you can get it through. He was like a one-legged man. He was Al Qaeda royalty, and he was in Guantanamo. Talk about galling. At the 9/11 arraignment, there was victim family members in the back of the room. This guy, Khalid Benatosh, made a paper airplane, had a little grin, held it up, and showed it to the family members, then threw it in the courtroom. So where KSM, he would kind of be like, he looks like a demented Santa Claus in some ways because he dyed his beard red. He wears a military camouflage jacket, to like make himself look like a more of a military leader. But in the arraignments, whenever the other conspirators that were in the same room would kind of act up a little bit, he would shut them up. Like he would keep them in line. He has, and the book talks about this, he has this very charismatic control over people. That's how he got a lot of these people that might not necessarily have evil in their hearts, but he got them to do evil things and be involved with evil things. Because he is a KSM, has that charisma, even though he's kind of like this little 5'4" guy. You showed the picture earlier of him, but he is a smart man. He is conniving. He's a bad guy, but he knows how to control people and manipulate them.
In New Jersey, where a lot of these people worked, who worked in the World Trade Center towers, lived, they're about ready to elect to office a person who testified in support of Ramzi Youssef, KSM's nephew, right?
Yes.
Or yeah. So what the hell?
So
Have we learned nothing?
again, I'm not familiar exactly with that. I always like I said,
There's
national
politics,
security. National security should be apolitical, no matter what. If someone comes in the office, but
Agreed.
obviously, I don't know what the situation is that he would testify on behalf of Ramzi Youssef, who of course was, the mastermind before the 1993 World Trade Center attack, and someone who was very close to Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's nephew, Ali Abdulaziz Ali, who was a main part of the 9/11 plot, looked up to Ramzi Youssef. He's down at Guantanamo still right now. He is highly featured in Second Wave. So yeah, that's always a little concerning, I suppose.
I'm going to read your book. I'm going to read it. I'm going to find out what that doggone nuclear plot was beyond what you've been able to tell us today. Second Wave inside Al Qaeda's post 9/11 attack plan and America's secret effort to stop it. Michael Lebowitz, thank you so much for coming on the Adult in the Room podcast, and thanks for scaring the heck out of me.
I am a Debbie Downer.
I know you must be fun at cocktail parties. I know how it goes. It's like I'm that guy too. Thank you so. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Oh man. So, wow, that's amazing. Can't wait to. I just got a copy of it today, so I'm very excited to read it, find out what the deal is. And he was excellent. He tells a good story, and so pleased to be able to have him on the program. And all it did was I just saw a message from LinkedIn. I thought, what is that? There you go. I never go on LinkedIn. Very seldom do I do that. I'm still mad at the guy who started, Reid Hoffman, for all his lawfare. Sorry, just why would I use it if I don't like the guy who put it together, I guess. Yes, that's just my little problem. So yesterday, last night, the Treasury Secretary announced that there would be an economic D-Day run against Iran, but not just against Iran. I want you to see what else he's got planned. And coming up next is Edmund Fitton Brown. He's going to tell me what he thinks about this plan. Let's hear what Scott Bessent had to say.
Launching Operation Economic Outcast to foreclose every other option available to the Iranian regime. Treasury has mapped every node, every facilitator, and every network that Iran has used to smuggle oil and evade sanctions. Beginning today, the actions of Treasury and other agencies will tighten the noose and block every potential source of revenue that funds the IRGC and the evil Iranian regime. We are enforcing a zero leakage approach. There will be no minimal breathing space for the regime to rebuild its capacity to inflict terror against America and the world.
And he goes on.
To the ordinary soldier.
He just came back all by himself. So he goes on, and as I played an initial cut for you at the beginning of the program, it's like, if they actually follow through on all this stuff, and I think they are, this is an economic D-Day. Edmund Fitton Brown is with the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. He knows all the stuff. He's formerly with the United Nations. He's also former diplomat, of course. He was the ambassador to Yemen, representing the UK, Britain. And thank you so much for coming on. And this is your baby. What do you make of this?
Thanks, Victoria. It's great to be with you. So this is what I think we've been hoping for, those of us who see the need for maximum pressure on Iran. If we recognize that the military campaign, the intense military campaign, has currently run its course, not necessarily for all time, but because of issues over munitions, because of the fact that you start to run out of the first order targets, and because the Iranians appear to be willing to be bombed, pretty much to any degree and still to hold on. For some time now, we've wanted to put maximum economic pressure on them. And of course, the very first component of that is the naval blockade, and the naval blockade is in place. And I think that the US is now willing to sustain that for the time that is needed. And we're not talking weeks, we're probably talking months. We could even be talking into early next year. So we have to sort of be prepared for this to take time. But now you have this additional pressure, Operation Economic Outcast. And this looks really interesting to me because what this is going to do is finally, after so many years when people have imposed sanctions but turned a blind eye at violations and not imposed secondary sanctions on people who are helping basically to provide a lifeline to the sanctioned entity or country. And this time it looks as if the US is serious about penalizing anyone and everyone who tries to provide Iran with that lifeline. And you've already got a really important ally in the UAE here, because the UAE has already announced that it's freezing all trade with Iran and freezing all financial transactions with Iran. And the UAE, although it's a small country and a small economy, it's been an incredibly important lifeline economically and financially for the Iranians. So they're really starting to worry. And what I'm most struck by over the last 24 hours, as the US has been setting out this policy, I think with a greater seriousness than I've seen before from the US, I've also seen that the Iranian reaction has been really troubled. They're worried. They're talking about lashing out in all sorts of directions in retaliation. They're saying this is an act of war. Anyone who colludes with it will be carrying out an act of war against Iran. But they can't fight everybody at once. So the question is, does the will to make countries like Pakistan, countries like India, Iraq, Turkey actually comply? In other words, will the US genuinely slap painful sanctions on anyone who's breaking this? And above all, of course, China being the main lifeline.
We're having a problem with your connection. And I'm kind of wondering, are you having trouble hearing me at all? I'm just kind of wondering. Maybe take
I'm hearing very well, but I can take the headphones off if maybe that's
or unattach them. Maybe if you could just do that. I don't know. It might help. You just never know.
Now that's gone silent.
Oh, you sound great. You sound awesome.
But I can't hear you, unfortunately.
Oh, sad. Oh, bummer. Okay, well, we'll just put them back on if you can. Just put your cans back on and we'll see how it goes. Sorry. Let's see if it still stutter steps a little bit.
Yeah, there we go. I hear you again. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but it's a bad connection. So, okay. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll just effort our way through, okay?
Or I can go back. I can go back in if you want.
Sure. Oh, okay. Yeah, let's do that. Okay.
Yeah, let's try that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's really it's hard for me to ask somebody of such a stature to, hey, could you just turn it on and turn it off? I'd make a really bad AV guy. That's what we used to call them kids when I was in school, the AV guy. In fact, I ended up marrying the AV guy. Not at my school. We found each other later, but he was an AV guy. So there you go. And let's listen a little bit more to Scott Bessent.
Supporting this regime, as more and more of your paychecks stop or supposedly just delayed, ask whether your commanders are leading your country to triumph or to ruin. And recall that the Berlin Wall fell when ordinary soldiers decided not to shoot at their own people. Regime.
I mean, was that an extraordinary comment? I mean, just. Oh, okay. You're not hearing? Well, put your headphones back on. We'll see how that works again, I guess. I'll send him a message. It's such a bummer because everybody wants to know what you have to say. We've never had this problem before, so. Hello.
Hi.
Oh, you sound great now. Can you hear me?
Oh my goodness, now what?
Yeah, I can hear you. We have a little private chat. You probably know that. Hey, Alex, can you talk to Edmund? Maybe offer some ideas.
Okay, I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
I sure can. Oh, this is awesome.
Okay, well, that's...
Okay, I guess we're okay,
Wow.
Alex. Thanks so much for being well. I'm sorry. Yay! Scott Bessent makes these pronouncements yesterday. I mean, it sounds like, holy crap, this is huge, which it is. Who's he making the announcement for? Secondarily, who is the secondary and tertiary folks that he's, in baseball, there's this thing called a purpose pitch. You make a pitch, not necessarily to make a purpose pitch on that guy, but to communicate to the other guys that, hey, this is what I'm willing to do. Yeah,
I mean, obviously, Iran is part of that, but Iran is the object. This isn't a matter of negotiation. This is being imposed on Iran. So who is the US trying to influence? It's definitely trying to influence all of the countries that have maintained a kind of a neutral relationship, have maintained a balance between the US and Iran. Now that includes Iraq, it includes Turkey, it includes Pakistan, it includes the UAE, but the UAE has already said that it's on board. And it includes Oman. And so these will all be taking notice. But I would say that the primary audience for this is China, because China China obviously is a giant economy. It also benefits enormously from getting discounted oil from Iran because Iran struggles to offload its oil, and the Chinese are happy to take it. So the Chinese have already reacted very sharply to this. They don't like it at all. So the more that I hear China protesting, Iran protesting, the more I think that this is a good policy. I think that we've finally hit upon something that is hurting the Iranians. Now, what we're seeing also happen in Iran, as I say, they're not really the audience for this, but of course they are very much the target for it. And we've already got inflation, hyperinflation, having gone to the point where it's now more than 2 million reals to the dollar. It's never been that low. So basically the economy is in free fall.
It's worse than Zimbabwe.
Yeah, the currency is in free fall. And you've got huge lines at gas stations. People are struggling to fill their cars. It's still extremely hot in Iran in August. Yeah. And therefore, if they're struggling to power their houses, their cars, they've got a huge problem. And so people are already talking about whether this is going to get people back on the streets. And there's also some signs of division emerging among some of the politicians, with some of the people who we've sometimes referred to as moderates, although there is a question mark over whether that's the right term for them. Pragmatists might be a better one, I don't know. But one or two of those people have started talking about the fact that the economy cannot cope with this pressure, which probably the IRGC would regard that as treasonous talk.
Oh, yeah. So he wants to be president, unless he's killed first. Now, here's the thing. So you get one or two of these guys that are willing to put their head up a little bit out of the foxhole. Is there precedent to suggest that this might be a way to get things started again, people back on the streets, as you say? Do you think that's likely?
I think it's possible. I mean, I've always believed that the Islamic Republic is into its last few years. I remember sort of predicting last year that the Islamic Republic might collapse this year. And at that time, I didn't know that we were going to see the protests that we saw in December and January. Then I said, "Oh my goodness, it's sooner than I thought, and it really could be imminent." But of course, it didn't happen at that time. The protests just didn't quite reach the tipping point, and the regime was able to crush them. But I don't think that anything has been fixed. So the question is, at what point does the level of popular anger and disgust actually overcome the level of popular fear that people will be shot and arrested and executed and all that sort of stuff? So it's difficult at the moment to be sure about this. During the period of the shooting war, you could say that the Iranian people couldn't come out on the streets because they wouldn't have felt safe doing so, because the Israelis and the Americans were sort of attacking a lot of targets around Iran. Now, of course, they could come out, but the question is, do they feel safe to do so? Where it tends to boil over is when ordinary, not just sort of intellectuals, but ordinary people start to say, why is it impossible for me even to fill my car? We're supposed to be an oil economy, and I can't get gas for my car. That doesn't make any sense. They've also got this huge water problem, which has not gone away. They weren't able to supply the capital city of 10 million people reliably with water. So I think we will see a resumption of protests. And I think the point is that the US has finally, I think, hit on a winning formula. And of course, the other side of this that's very good is that it doesn't expose US troops to excessive risk. There still may be casualties because the US is going to have to do a fair amount of policing around the edges. There's still the operation in the Strait of Hormuz, which is continuing.
Yes.
But I think the main sort of political downside could be in oil prices. And they are high. Gas prices are high at the pumps in the US. But in my view, I think the president probably can communicate that this is a pain worth suffering if it's going to finally resolve this endless conflict with Iran.
His messaging has been, sort of off, as we've discussed before. Where do they go? Where does the regime go? Let's say some players want to just get the heck out of Dodge. Where are they going to run to? We only have a couple more minutes with you. Where do you think they'll go?
Well, I mean, they've got options if they were actually going to run away. Some of the leadership figures, somebody like Mujtaba, the possible supreme leader, if he's still functioning. You could see him going to Moscow, for example. There was talk about the fact that he could even be in Russia now and having medical treatment, because that's the kind of thing the Russians could provide. But for a lot of these people, they won't really be able to go anywhere. Some of them might try to go to Pakistan. Some might conceivably try to go to Afghanistan, but that's not a very attractive option for them because the Taliban don't really like the IRGC very much. So I think these people probably reckon they're going to have to stand and fight, and they probably reckon that most of them will be killed if there is a popular uprising that actually succeeds.
The other thing I wanted to find out from you is the other day we were talking about the fact that Al-Qaeda is situated under house arrest in Tehran or thereabouts. Do you think they'll let them out?
Well, that's a really interesting question. I was
big payback. That'd be a big FU.
Yeah, I mean, they might, for example, have options for some of their key people. Things that they would do for key Iranians, things that they would do for key non-Iranians who are sort of assets of the regime. And that would include the Al-Qaeda leadership. Now, if they were going to send the Al-Qaeda leadership anywhere, my guess is that they would probably have to send it to Yemen, because I can't see where else they could send it. The Houthis, I think, will look after them. They'll take care of them if the Iranians want them to do that. I don't think they'd be safe in Syria. The other alternative would be Afghanistan.
Interesting. I know we have to leave it there. Thank you so much, Edmund Fitton Brown, Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. He's a senior fellow there and all around good guy. We appreciate your expertise. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much, Victoria. Take care.
Have a lovely day. Yeah, thank you so much. Well, wow. Somebody said, oh, LOL, Iran is not going anywhere. Nobody says it is. Delusional political analysis, said the person who assumed that we were talking that Iran would go somewhere. We don't think Iran's going to go anywhere. Iran's going to stay and hopefully be run by normal people. And there is a leader in waiting, which I think is kind of crazy. However, I mean, I call it kind of crazy because I don't want to be pickers, you know, the kingmakers here. And although the Iranians themselves who are there in the streets have signs for him. So, you know, fingers crossed and all that. But this is just an epic, epic time to be alive, I guess. Here is more Scott Bessent. I wanted him to finish this
as more and more of your paychecks stop or supposedly just delayed.
Okay, no, I don't want to do that one.
The final refuge of this regime is a mistaken conclusion of nations that still finance the Iranian threat in the hopes of evading it. It is no longer acceptable to operate in the gray spaces of this conflict. Countries cannot claim they are blind to enabling this activity. Iran's enablers purchase, transport its petroleum. They facilitate the flow of its finances through exchange houses and free trade zones. They welcome Iran's flights and maintain registries on its behalf. They turn a blind eye to seaborne fuel transfers and overland transits. They condone illicit use of their banks, all the while concealing the extent of their complicity. The president is making phone calls to world leaders with specific requests to cease their interactions with the regime. We are already seeing results. Over the weekend, comments from Iranian leadership clearly acknowledged the effect of this campaign, and nations that facilitate any interactions with the regime should quickly heed our message. Those who stand with the United States will reap the rewards of our partnership. Those who tether themselves to the Iranian regime should expect to share in the isolation of a withering regime.
Wow. This is, I've never seen anything like this before. Never. This kind of reminds me of what World War II must have been like, you know, where you have world leaders going, we can't do this. This dude, not okay. We're going to crush him, and we're going to take him out economically as well as militarily. And it took us years to build up. Now the Trump administration, they've given everybody every opportunity. How many times have you been complaining about the fact that Donald Trump will sit down anytime with anyone? Yeah, everybody. We're all complaining. And now they go, okay, took the gloves off. This is Economic D-Day. Amazing. We have our finishing move today, and it is the probably the thing that people are going to most talk about today. You'll see it you'll see some of it if you watch the news. And you're not going to see all of it, just like you're not going to see all of it today on this program, because I had to take out the part that is being censored on TikTok. And honey, if TikTok's censoring it, and he starts out a 10-minute incredible organized rant about how people have just lost their minds through the impression brought by social media. And his chief example is set by the women who have come out to support a woman who killed her 3 kids. You know this case. Well, he goes through in detail how she killed her children. And so that is the part that was censored. We pick it up after that, and it's an epic rant. I'm just going to say it. Go.
Recording of his screams as he turned over his
Talking
dead
about the
children,
dad.
seeing their blue faces and their eyeballs nearly bursting from the sockets. The man naturally moved far away in a desperate attempt to reset his life somehow, and his wife is on trial for murder. And women on TikTok are supporting her. Go ahead, look around if you dare. You will see hundreds of psychotic women supporting Lindsay Clancy, blaming the husband.
All right, he did it. Patrick did it.
Lindsay Clancy is obviously not guilty.
He did it. He did it.
Patrick's the one who did it. Not Lindsay. Patrick did it.
Lindsay Clancy's birth chart. Just following all their birth charts and birthdays and zodiac signs.
I've already gone over the forensic astrology chart.
Okay, Candace Owens says that Lindsay Clancy didn't kill her own children when all signs point to that. And yet she is willing to say that Erica Kirk did kill her husband. Okay.
That show that the perpetrator is a male.
Women typically don't strangle.
I'm telling you all right now, when the South Node goes into Cancer,
He's a Gemini man.
They poison or drown them.
I can't wait for this man to be humbled and for karma to do its thing.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump did it.
Patrick did it.
Lindsay Clancy's birth chart. Just following all their birth charts and birthdays and zodiac signs.
I've already gone over the forensic astrology charts that show that the perpetrator is a male.
Women typically don't strangle.
I'm telling you all right now, when the South Node goes into Cancer,
He's a Gemini man.
They poison or drown them.
I can't wait for this man to be humbled and for karma to do its thing.
Donald Trump.
Because, of course, in this dystopian social media era, everything is a conspiracy. Nothing is real. Bad things don't happen. Every real story is just fed slop. The real story is some convoluted, nefarious plot by the Jews.
What? That's so crazy.
Whatever the opposite of Occam's razor is, that's TikTok. We have lost our damn minds.
That's really the reason TikTok censored this. Whatever the reverse of Occam's razor is, it's TikTok. Ah, crap. Sorry.
From a wet market in the same place where there's this huge lab that does all the kind of development of exactly what this thing is, that's some coincidence.
They lied about the threat to kids. They locked everyone down.
I wear a mask to school. I wear a mask to school.
It was like some horrendous globalized Stanford prison experiment. Our institutions completely eviscerated their own reputation and dignity. Gavin Newsom locked us down and then had a fancy dinner with friends at the French Laundry. The science told us that if you went paddleboarding alone in the middle of the ocean, you needed to be arrested for killing grandma. But of course, if you riot with 500,000 people, that's totally fine because viruses take a time out when it comes to social justice. Our institutions so thoroughly destroyed any semblance of credibility that they ever had, and frankly, they don't deserve that trust anymore. But we've devolved into a buffoonish, low-trust society where now people see conspiracy and malice in literally every corner of human life.
That is true. 9/11, for example.
Nothing is real, but everything is real. But beyond that is something darker. It's not just that we've allowed ourselves to believe the craziest things. It's not
demonic
that we've just jettisoned our critical thought. We've lost our humanity. Look at the animals who people are now celebrating openly. Luigi Mangione shot a healthcare CEO in the back and communists celebrated him. Women openly gushed over him and still do. Even as he's pled guilty, they still simp for him. Now I know women have always been crazy. All famous murderers get love letters in prison, so it's not exactly a new phenomenon. But we can have a discussion about daddy issues another time.
Let me just interject here. Somebody said something that I thought was very good, and I wish I'd thought of it. And that was about Luigi Mangione, who is accused of murdering. It's on video of him murdering the United Healthcare CEO. And Luigi Mangione's family, of course, is really rich. They actually built a hospital. He could have gone there had he had any problems. He never had any problems with United Healthcare. That was not even his insurer. He just did it because he was a nihilistic, demon-possessed dillweed. And so, but he could have gone to, if he had real issues, and he did have some physical issues, definitely, he could have gone to his family's hospital.
That's not what this is. This is something more sinister. What explains the outpouring of love for the mom who strangled her kids? Why are people trying so hard to exonerate her? When some criminal migrant masturbates in front of children at a public beach, the dads rightfully beat the shit out of him. But a woman suffering with suicidal empathy intervenes to protect and comfort that child sex offender? When you see an invasion of Spain, you see a woke woman gleefully waving the invaders in. Is this what matriarchy looks like? Where this kind of suicidal empathy that exploits the noble virtue of unconditional maternal compassion and perverts it towards the criminal dregs of society?
This is an excellent point. This is a great point where we are so confused as a public. We want to throw off the roles that we've been assigned, if you will, and to embrace other things. Women don't want to be mothers, or they don't want to have certain roles that they can only play in society. And so men too, a bunch of beta males out there right now. So what he's saying is, and we're willing to cede that attention to something else that is so beneath contempt for whatever reason, for whatever sick reason. And he believes that it's social media, the algorithm, suggesting people into that corner. Just listen. He's not saying it's the cause. He's saying it's a reason.
All because wokeness now supersedes all normal virtue? We've heard that expression. It's a face that only a mother can love. I know I always heard it. We all know that unconditional maternal love, that superpower that God imbued into our mothers to make sure they loved us, irrationally loved us, so they didn't toss us into the damn river as babies when we're crying all night long for months on end. Their maternal love must supersede all reason and normal emotion in order to make sure that they can even make it through. But now that irrational love isn't pointed at our own vulnerable children. It's been reallocated towards whatever group the algorithm has designated as the vulnerable class. Criminal migrants, drug addicts on the street.
That's
Any
right.
and all of the worst cretins of the planet get full feminine favor and protection as long as they're not the ultimate Satan, the white male. The hijacking of the maternal instinct didn't start with social media. It goes way back to 1995 when she watched Dead Man Walking as a teenager. When that film planted the seed that vile criminals deserve her heartfelt tears.
Don't execute this man. You can stop this from happening, sir.
Then Dexter injected it with steroids. This is the prolonged conditioning that accelerated with the ascendance of the Byronic hero. We got so cute with finding redeeming qualities in irredeemable villains. Gone are the days of the true bad guy. Now, the cinematic vanguard is in love with finding the humanity in the bad guy, telling the sympathetic origin story. Our parents had superheroes. We have anti-heroes.
You're goddamn right.
Breaking Bad was so brilliant, but it made us cheer on a narcissistic, murderous, criminal drug kingpin who destroyed his family over money. When Tim Burton did Batman, the Joker was a lunatic. But now the Joker gets his own movie where he's the hero, and the climax of the film is him murdering the orderlies at the asylum. The arts dog-walked us here over decades, with films and television that inverted the paradigm of normal virtue. Cops are the bad guys, outlaws are the heroes, and man, do you see that manifesting in reality today.
That is absolutely true. I don't blame the arts only for that. I blame the fact that we've gone away from what is good and what is evil, and we have forgotten our way. And that's really what's going on. He doesn't say that, but it's all about good and evil. It's all about God and going after what is anti-God. That is what is happening. Here's more of Spencer Pratt with his excellent takedown.
Scrolling through Mommy Sleuth TikTok is an exercise in pure insanity. Whatever this woke social media blob has done to the modern mind, it's gone far beyond internet sleuthing, and it's spawned an entire generation of hollow-out, depraved crazies. What about all the goblins celebrating the communists who shot Charlie Kirk? You have insane influencers making a fortune off shamelessly exploiting his death, tying themselves in knots with the most convoluted Rube Goldberg bullshit explanations to try and deny something we all saw in 4K and wish we didn't. It was an exploding mic.
He had a rigged microphone.
And they timed it precisely to the millisecond with the fake gunshot from the patsy.
The shaped charge was actually supposed to hit him in the chest.
There were Jews hiding under the grass. It was French special forces. Just the craziest, most unhinged shit imaginable. And people believe it. Anything but what actually happened.
Because Candace said it.
Anything but the most obvious, straightforward explanation. The woke communists you saw on camera who have prints on the rifle killed an anti-communist leader because communists are violent lunatics. That's it. We have a communist violence problem, but psychos on the internet have made an entire cottage industry around denying and exploiting it.
We're not morons.
But what's so much worse than these crazy conspiracies?
That's just awesome. I have to laugh, and I'm not going to be able to not laugh. So Yeah. So I'm stopping him so you can hear all of it.
Is how it drives people to abandon their basic human decency. It goes from just asking questions to demonizing a grieving widow, celebrating her husband's violent death. It's so much worse than just absolving the actual murderer and trying to sabotage the trial. These people have a bloodlust.
Yes, they do.
What have you become when you celebrate an assassination like this? I don't care what your politics are. This was a father, a loving husband. You know, I was in D.C. in an interagency meeting when that communist shot Charlie. I was there advocating for the Palisades, trying to get things done to help us rebuild when everyone's phones started buzzing. Now, I never knew Charlie, but some of the president's cabinet members were with us, agency heads, people who were friends with Charlie and had worked with him for years, and they were devastated. It was one of the most grotesque and shocking moments I've ever seen in American history, but the reactions that followed were far more grotesque and reveal a sad report on where we are as a country. Teachers mocking his death, drag queens putting on assassination fashion shows. Who are these demons? What have we allowed ourselves to become? We have been so thoroughly demoralized, I fear that we can't get any lower. These things have fried our brains. Politicians have become full-time influencers and utter clowns, gesture-gooning instead of campaigning. We dress like slobs. We shrug away drug addicts defiling themselves on our streets. We celebrate murders and lawlessness with alacrity. We have no dignity anymore, and I don't know how we get it back.
It's easy, God, but not everybody's going to want to say that. There you go. Wow, he's got a point. It's an excellent point. As Jason mentioned, Spencer got a point. Yeah, he does. He sure does. Well, you know, I always appreciate when somebody can tell a story very well. Spencer did that. I don't know how many cuts it took. I don't know how many tries it took. I don't know how many edits there are, but that was masterfully done. Really, really well done. He's got some people with skills making those videos for him, and of course, they have somebody really good to showcase in them as well. All right, listen. Coming up on Thursday, got a great show for you. Next Thursday is going to be epic book. Where is it? That's right here. In fact, I have to start reading it because Don Bentley's going to be on next Thursday. Double tap. It's going to be another Hot Book Summer offering. Shoot, I should do that with our book today. I kind of want to do feel good, kind of fun books. But on the other hand, yours truly, sometimes when I wake up in the middle of the night and I don't want to listen to Father Mike on the Bible in a Year thing in the middle of the night, I'll put on American Assassin, and that always gets me back to sleep. He's out with the next one. So maybe I'll put this one second wave on the list as well. So as a Hot Book Summer, but definitely next week. Next Thursday. And then this Thursday, I've already promised people I will do a particular thing. I will tell you on my social media what we're going to do. And it'll be fun. It'll be good, as it always is. Because you don't get this kind of information just anywhere. Not all of it, not all together on one program. I always find that out when I write stories for PJ Media and I highlight some of the guests that we have in my stories. I think, dang, we do a pretty doggone good show. And it's not a show, it's a program. It's got some good stuff. Anyway, Spencer Pratt, your finishing move. And I'm Victoria Taft. I'm your adult in the room. And we'll be back here on Thursday. Have a great day. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this episode of the Adult in the Room podcast. We do not take you for granted. We appreciate every single person who tunes in every week to listen and watch this program. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday, live streaming on Rumble, and then on every other podcast platform shortly thereafter when we can port it over and get it over there as soon as we can. All the shows can be found at victoriataft.com, where the censorship regime has been banned by me. Follow me on social media at these names: Victoria Taft, the Adult in the Room podcast, and the Victoria Taft Show. Send media inquiries, or any others for that matter, to victoria@victoriataft.com. And here's a big ask. Would you please subscribe, share, like, comment, recommend, and give this program a 5-star rating where you can? We really appreciate it. We do not take that for granted either. Follow my work at, you guessed it, victoriataft.com. PJ Media, I write tons over there. Flamingo Audiobooks, and of course the radio. I don't do this alone. This show is produced and engineered by Overall Media. 1A Cast is responsible for some of the Adult in the Room podcast's imaging. Logo design by Hageman Creative. The Adult in the Room podcast is produced at Flamingo Road Studios. All rights reserved.